going to give everybody just a couple more minutes to filter in. Give me a minute to get organized. Is a little joke there? Yeah. Oh, today's episode is on ADHD. Let's take a minute to get organized. A minute. All right. Because I'm hilarious. Might also need a glass of water. Oh wow. My Ouija shirt is very ghosty. I love it. All right, so I expect Miss Panda should be here just about any minute. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, just in case, if you'd like to contribute, comment, ask questions, or things like that, you do need to have a. Oh, let me turn this up just a little bit, because I'm not going to sit right on the mic. Right on the mic. You do need to have an account, a Twitch account, in order to chat, ask questions, things like that. And this is one of those times when you want that. Yeah, you totally want to be able to take part in this conversation, because many of you are specifically invited. I left you messages, talked to you directly, and I know that there are going to be comments and questions and things like that for yourself, for the people you love. And you're even on time. On time. I mean, like, whatever. That's even a thing. Oh, let me adjust this just a little bit. There you go. Because sitting up too high is bad for stuff. Hello, Miss Panda. I love you. I'm so glad you're joining us earlier than usual. I wasn't. Come on. You know what? Come on up. Say hello. Come on up. Come on. Up. 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 Who's this gorgeous puppy? Who's the gorgeousest puppy who finally gets to photobomb and stream bomb? This is Tank. Time is a construct. Yes, you're a good puppy. But you can't win the internet every time, so I need you to get down. Come on. Isn't that a vicious dog? Horrible, vicious dog you are. I know. Kisses. Good boy. Go lay down. Go lay down. Yes, our dogs are, yeah, says Tanky Tank. Yes, our dogs are horrible, vicious beasts who jump up and bark and are horrible at people. Anyway, let me see what else I can. Nope, there is literally nothing else I can. Well, maybe I can close that. There's nothing else I can close today. The other one is just goofy as shit. He's like the goofiest goof and the goof of goofiness. I mean, like, for reals. Oh no, I'll tell you all about that one later. You know, last week I did my little experiment talking about the oh, yeah, there are no other dogs. No other dogs exist. I know, Molly was just... We didn't get to Molly soon enough is the real problem. But dogs be dogs. She okay. So last week I did a little experiment talking about the Seven Loves. No. Last week was the 5 love languages. Week before that was the 7 words for love. It's okay. Everybody knows I have like a house. I'm not worried. But yeah, just the worst. Today, so last week we were talking about in a world of marbles, as in we're all trying to find ours. Everybody has a bag of marbles, and mine has like a hole in it. That's watercolor, man. It's actually one of my. I look back like I can see it. Like it's not completely digital. I can see it in my mind, and also on the screen. So last week y'all watched me do my double-fisted drawing technique, and we talked about the 5 love languages because that's something I could probably talk about in my sleep. And the week before that, I think, was the 7 words for love, which actually brought up a lot of interesting questions for a lot of folks. The Grecian goddess of truth bombs. I love you so hard. I do love a good Take 2, they're small. Mediterranean diet, so maybe that's where I got it from. I once wrote I don't think I finished it. No, I know I didn't finish it, but there was a story that I was working on called Long as There Were Violets, and it was about a Greek goddess or muse or something like that that had basically been taken care of through this one family for centuries. Like everybody knew she was a member of the family, but nobody knew exactly who she was related to. It was beautiful. I loved it. And she kept like just being born into the same family over and over and over again, I think, or just was there. Or can't remember how exactly it worked. Maybe one day I'll get my groove back. Right now, my time is being taken up with, I guess, the truth bombs more directly, and that was not comfortable to do. All right. We have a couple more minutes here just to be on the safer side. Everything looks pretty good from where I am. All right, so we're going to switch back and forth between the slides like I did last time. But these are new slides, special slides, different slides. And at the end of today's stream, I'm actually I had a minute to actually put together my citation list, so that will actually run at the end of everything, so you guys don't think I'm just making shit up. I mean, I guess I could, but at some point I'll get all of this put together in such a way that it can get posted in its entirety. I say like I have all the time in the fucking world, right? All right, is this, I'm going to turn this up just a little bit more because I am kind of back off of the mic just a bit. All right. Just a few more minutes. Double check a thing. Another thing. All right. Happy with all the things. Okay. I guess you guys are ready, as ready as you're ever gonna be. Prepare yourself for ADHD world. Bum, bum, bum. No, it's, nobody can see you yet. That's fine. So, in ADHD world, I won't say everything sucks, but it definitely can use some improvement. If you are born with ADHD, we are all born with ADHD. If we have ADHD, it is a natural condition. Y'all need help. We all need help. It's just the way it is. So, it used to be, years and years and years ago, that ADHD was, it was called things like minor brain disorder, or minor cognitive disorder, or yes, we've all won the playoffs, because I'm sure that's a sports ball reference. Yay, sports ball. And the problem was, of course, that ADHD was primarily diagnosed in children. And the criteria was established by observing young white males between the ages of 6 and 12. So a lot of people kind of got left out in the cold. For instance, black kids were more likely to be punished, sent to the principal's office, sent to detention. Basically, their scholastic life was made a living hell, when the real problem was ADHD, motherfuckers. And so it's caused an enormous amount of social rift. There's another word for it I'm looking for. Schism, separation. Words are hard. But, and I'll get, again, a little bit later, I will get into how this sort of inequality in diagnoses kind of screwed with everybody and caused some very skewed and unfortunate factors in the way ADHD is described as adults in our society. It wasn't actually until about 1999 that somebody started going, you know what's kind of weird is that these kids aren't just really like growing out of it like we thought they would. Like, these boys just, I mean, they can sit still, but they just don't pay attention for nothing. So weird. So the a 4-factor structure was created in the Conners Adult ADHD Rating Scale, the CAARS. It used to be just the CARS, Conners ADHD Rating Scale. Sure, why not? That damn Connor just getting all over everywhere. And it was, you know, you have to have like this range on inattention and cognitive problems, hyperactivity or restlessness, impulsivity, and emotional lability. And lability is changeable, like going from 0 to, oh my God, in like 0 seconds. And problems with self-concept. Now, this is a fun one. Problems with self-concept. I don't know if any of you have actually taken CARS, CAARS, but it's a little weird. And problems with self-concept has a tendency, you know where I grew up, right? How to handle my perfect Southern Belle. Well, that's not even really Southern Belle. That's just very Texan. That's like Texan socialite. Southern Belle is totally different, because if you start talking about Southern Belles, you're talking about those ladies down there and the antebellum, you know, those plantations. That's a Southern Belle. So we're not going to get into that. I mean, come on, Joseph came by it honest, the whole voice acting, making funny voices thing, and oh my. Besides, if I'm not entertaining, nobody will watch. Excuse me. Anyway, problems with self-concept, they basically took to mean depression. CAARS, the Conners Adult ADHD Rating Scale. So adults were given a different scale than the kids were. CARS, the Conners ADHD Rating Scale. Because let's just make things confusing. It couldn't really be applied to grown-ups, you know? Because strangely enough, so weird, when people add on more years, they deal with things differently. Like, who knew? So problems with self-concept is actually like, wow, I suck. And I'm terrible at this. And all the things that actually, in another, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, turned into cognitive affective syndrome, CAS, or as we like to call it, I suck syndrome. Again, we'll get into this later when we get into later stages. So without a strong diagnostic scale, adult ADHD rates were almost impossible to gauge. Self-assessment is only as good as self-assessment can be. ADHD in kids is actually assessed with, I mean, yes, kids go, hey, I'm having trouble thinking about, but also parents observe them, and teachers observe them, and their friends observe them, and you know, not a lot of people are gonna ask their boss to chip in and you know, put in a good word as, yeah, he's the worst worker ever, or you know, he'd be great if he could focus. You know, nobody's gonna ask their boss to say that. But as time went on, 2000, 2001, 2002, give or take, people started noticing that there was a distinct difference between people with major depressive disorder and ADHD. So, let me get into this part. Can't remember if I discussed this directly. No, let's switch over to the, I'm going to switch over to the slides for a minute, and we'll, welcome to my ADHD world. I forgot what the fuck I put on the slides. So this should be interesting. This will be fun. I'm so fucked. All right. ADHD, superpowers suck until you learn how to use them. What is ADHD? Hello, Carly, Marxist. I think I know exactly who you are. So what is ADHD? It is the worst named disorder ever. I mean, can you imagine? ADHD. You got no sound for me? Oh, crap. All right, sorry guys, give me just a second here. It looks like we have an issue with my slides. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, cool. All right. Give me just a moment here. Let me make sure that this is working. That looks like it's supposed to be a thing. All right, I'm going to switch over one more time. And let me see if this works. All right, how about now? Can you hear me now? Oh, nope.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
You could?
Yeah.
All right, well, fine.
Yeah.
To see how organized I am, this is completely appropriate. All right, ADHD is the worst. Oh, shush. Yes, Panda, that's completely appropriate. So ADHD is the worst named disorder ever. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I can't sit down or shut up, and what was that you were thinking? Yeah, that's totally descriptive, sure. It's actually dopamine dysfunctions that can lead to either extreme lack of focus or hyperactivity or both. And unfortunately, it is comorbid with a ton of other issues and disorders that make its diagnosis problematic. Which is why I was saying that they didn't actually start diagnosing adult ADHD until, was it, well, the CAARS came out in 99 and 2000, 2001, 2002, and they started looking at adults with ADHD as like, well, to start with it, they started assessing them on the Big Five paradigm, which I have huge issues with. That's that personality profile thing that a lot of researchers love to use. That is conscientiousness. Oh, I know, I totally wrote this down because I was going to forget. Oh my God. Please tell me. Maybe. Shit. Conscientiousness, neuroticism, agreeableness, and two other things. I know that sounds horrible, but I didn't write it down on this slide because I think it's bullshit. But the biggest problem is that they were diagnosing people with a lot of other things that weren't ADHD, basically personality disorders, because ADHD people are so loud in the head in general that, or loud in the eyes, or loud in the ears, or loud in the everything except the person standing in front of them, that they just thought that we didn't give a fuck about people. When it's like, no, we do. There's like all this other shit we gotta like sort and prioritize. Shit, son. Oh my God. So what everybody thinks it is the, ooh, shiny squirrel, isn't that fucking hilarious? And yeah, no. No. What it really is sensory processing disorders. That's like, all right, show of hands. You're sitting here talking to someone and you are really into what they say, and then you don't even know what happens, but you like lose half the sentence and you're scared to go, I'm sorry, what was that? Because you don't want to seem rude and you don't want to seem mean and you don't want to seem like you weren't interested, but you're like, sure, that's great. God, I hope that wasn't important. For me, it was sitting in the back of physics, which I absolutely loved, and I couldn't hear and I couldn't like tell at all what Coach Wolf was saying, because I don't know what distracted me. Learning disadvantages. I'm calling them disadvantages now because screw you guys. But it's like dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, slow processing disorder, of course sensory processing disorder. It's at times where sometimes you can only learn things by video. And sometimes you can only, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit for you guys. And sometimes you can only learn things from reading them. And sometimes you really need somebody to put your hands on and like make it happen. But it's not consistent. And don't think that there's something weird about you or you're less ADHD because it's not consistent, because no, that's totally ADHD. Intense hyperfocus. Like I just sat down to do this thing that I love to do, and why is my coffee cold? And why is there mold floating in it? And who are you people? And why am I dusty? Yeah. But what's worse is whenever you try to transition out of it, if you're like, okay, I've got like 2 hours to do the thing. All right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do the thing for only 2 hours. I love the thing, but I'm going to get into it. I'm going to do the thing. And 2 hours goes up. Right? Get to page 2 and you're asleep. Honestly, it depends on the book. If I try to read a fiction book, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. If I try to read a science manual, which I was trying to use to go to sleep, no. That's why I've been up until 2 o'clock in the morning almost for 2 weeks. But then if somebody tries to break you out of it, or you try to break yourself out of it because you're going to do the thing, you're going to break out of it. You're going to not hyper-focus. You get really crabby as shit. And then you can't focus on anything else. And that's really the worst of it. It's not like you stop doing it and then everything's fine. No. It's, yeah. Executive dysfunction. So, you know, like, where you're sitting there and you're like on your phone or on the computer or you're watching a show and you're like, wow, I really need to do laundry. I just heard the timer go off. I need to go. Yeah, I need I need to go, but you are not connected in any way, shape, or form to this couch. You need to, butt needs to move. How about hands? Can hands move and get me off the, no? Oh, fuck's sake. And then you feel like shit because the laundry needs to be folded and put away. And now that you think about it, the kitchen really needs to be done. But you cannot move. Your dopamine's like, watch this. Anxiety disorders. These may or may not be directly related to not being able to do things when you want to do them. A lot of times they are. Feeling out of control and feeling like you can't do the thing that you need to do is extremely frustrating and panic-inducing. Depressive disorders. So here's a fun little thing, and we're going to get into this a little bit later when we talk about medication and stuff like that. So, and I went through this a few weeks ago when we were talking about depression specifically. We were talking about all the chemicals in the brain, and you've got your serotonin, and you've got your norepinephrine, and you've got your dopamine, and you've got your melatonin, and you've got, there's a shit ton of them. So it turns out like all of these have roles in maintaining moods. It's not just all serotonin. I'm sure they would like to think that it's all like one-shot whatevers, but turns out there are no panaceas. How about that stuff? What? You mean we're not all cookie cutters of each other? That's just nuts. But it's also, hey look, a poor temporal sense. Wait, how long have I been sitting here? Poor corporeal sense. So that's like being clumsy and accident prone. And yes, I did hurt myself making salad. Anger and emotion control issues. So this is what we're talking about with emotional lability. Like, not only do I go from 0 to holy fuck, what was that in 0 seconds, but also what do I do once I get there? Low self-esteem. Come on, I'm supposed to be able to do this. I'm supposed to be able to do like, I'm smart. I'm smart. I need to make the grades to show that I'm smart. Why can't I do the thing? I must suck instead. Delayed sleep phase syndrome. Yeah, you notice how we can't like actually say on circadian rhythms unless we really try hard. Seasonal affective disorder. Yeah. Like, now sometimes the light bulbs, those help with this, but not always. Substance abuse issues. Yes, this is absolutely a thing because we tend to try to self-medicate on it. You can't really see it on here. I'm sorry, guys. I was trying to make it right. Unemployment and criminality is what it says. I know you can't see it. Because that is a real consequence for untreated ADHD. So a lot of us end up, yeah, Panda, for reals, girl. Anyway, for a lot of us who don't realize or got knocked down for believing that we have any type of ADHD stuff, yeah, we actually end up self-medicating. We self-medicate because sometimes doing bumps of speed is like the only way we can read a book or get things done or anything like that, and not like, oh yeah, man, I did like so much of the drug, but like, hey, if I just do like a little teeny tiny bit of this, I actually like accomplished something. That's amazing. Or wow, I am so crawling out of my skin, I have got to have something to calm my shit down. Or there's all kinds of reasons in all kinds of ways, and it's not unusual. Obviously, it's not ideal. I will absolutely never crawl up anybody's ass for doing the drugs, except that street drugs are not regulated, and you're probably putting a lot of bad shit. High five, sister. And you're probably putting a lot of bad shit in your system that you don't need to have. That's really my only issue with it. I am a pro-Portuguese girl. I really think that it was Portuguese, right? Portugal? I'm 93.5% sure. Yes. They legalized all drugs. All of them. Everything. And all of a sudden they didn't have drug problems. It was so weird. They replaced everything that they were using to criminalize drugs with counseling and support systems. And it turns out that 98% of drug addiction is living in shitty conditions. So weird. Because for most people, it's a lot easier to get to the pot or the coke or the speed or the smack or the shrooms. That's a lie. Nobody can get to shrooms. I mean, I'm trying. But than it is to get to, oh, I don't know, a fucking doctor. So yes, ADHD people who go on ADHD people who go undiagnosed and unsupported do have a higher rate of substance abuse compared to the general population of un-ADHD people. They also have perpetually higher rates of unemployment. Or creative employment. And criminality. Turns out that prisons, when they did a little survey, that population is a 3 times higher rate of ADHD positive people. Like, and the ones that are on the screen, not the ones that are like sort of borderline or manage it a little bit or anything. 3 times higher for just the extreme cases than general population. And general population is roughly 16%, I think, was the last study that was done that I read. That I think was in 2010. I'd have to go look. So when people talk about what ADHD is, they think it's trouble focusing and fidgeting, and that is true to a degree. However, it means that there are a lot of extra things that go and sort of snowball off of that. Choice paralysis, forgetting thoughts immediately after having them, difficulty switching tracks. That's called transition difficulty. Problems focusing on things even if they are of interest. Forgetting to eat, sleep, inability to focus, executive dysfunction, following, maintaining conversations, depression. Depression, of course, as I said, because I should totally be able to do this. Why can't I do this? What the shit? I must be horrible. Poor sense of time, trouble recalling commonly used words. I don't know what that's about at all. Said not me twice today. And of course, anxiety, financial problems, sensory processing disorder. Now we're going to get into this a lot more extensively a little bit later. And I kind of rabbit holed super fucking bad. For the last 2 days, roughly, I was allowed to do that. But the overlap between ADHD and autism is like, it's really hard to differentiate between the two neurologically. We'll get to that in a minute. And I have like a ton of resources. And again, at the end of this stream, I'm actually going to close with my citation outro, which is going to give you the short list of the citations that I used to build this presentation and this stream. It's not short. It's just the ones that I directly referenced. Like, yeah, short. So here's one of the other things. So ADHD paralysis, and I hear a lot of people talk about this, and sunshine, baby cakes. No, that's executive function disorder or executive dysfunction. And it's because your brain doesn't have the dopamine it needs to say, hey, do the thing. Comorbidity is the biggest problem. Also, the autism thing, yes, but what's worse is clinicians like to say that it happens or gets confused with autism, of course. Borderline personality disorder. This is my favorite one. I'm going to address this directly in just a second. Bipolar disorder, again, frail motherfuckers. Major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And they can be all of these things except BPD and BP. So here's the difference between ADHD, and I'm going to include a certain amount of spectrum in here as well, and BPD or and bipolar disorder. So with BPD, borderline personality disorder, usually this comes around from a specific event, a specific trauma, a specific programming, comes from who the fuck knows. But basically the people who are truly BPD have a conscious and malicious desire to fuck your shit up. Now they do have a lot of the same behavioral aspects as ADHD, hyper-focusing, difficulty sitting still, moving back and forth from thing to thing, impulsivity, all of those traditional things, but they don't, but BPD doesn't actually take into account that, or rather, when somebody diagnoses someone with BPD instead of ADHD, they're basically saying, and you know what, and you're just an asshole. So all these other things, that's not really important. You're just an asshole. And hey, taking drugs and doing therapy might work, but and the key to that is the conscientiousness. I was talking about the big five before. I get it. People like to have simplified terms for their research so that they can break it down easier and quantify humans. And I get it. We need to have things that are measurable. But come on. There is such a thing as oversimplification. So the conscientiousness is really the part that has to be examined between these two things. They can, from the outside, look very, very similar. Oh, I have no idea what the fuck you were saying. What the hell was your name? Where did I put the thing? Etc., etc. But for ADHD people, they feel extremely guilty to the point of carrying shame that they can't remember your goddamn name. I am so sorry. I've called you by your screen name for so long. I don't actually know who you are in IRL. That has happened to me way too frequently. But I know a lot of my friends mostly online. So, I have an excuse. The bipolar disorder, it is not bipolar disorder because while ADHD folks can have, and frequently do have, major depressive episodes, seasonal affective disorder, things along those lines, it is a different type of depressiveness as what bipolar people normally experience. And that is that bipolars will generally have anhedonia, which is a very fancy word that means they do not experience pleasure or happiness or any, they lose interest in what they normally love. And in ADHD, it's every single one that I've ever talked to about this. It's not so much that we lose pleasure in doing the thing, it's that we feel so hopeless in trying to do the thing that we love. It's like we can't even focus long enough to make a fucking video game or to finish writing a book or to do any of these things. And it's not that we don't want to do the thing, it's that our brain is just like, yeah, try me. NaNoWriMo is the worst time of the year to have a fucking writing contest for me personally, because no, it's fucking November, man. It's dark longer. SAD. I would love to write. I would love to finish shooting blanks for all my readers who read Middle of Nowhere. Sorry, guys, I'm still working on it. But, November just isn't the time to do it. Whereas people who have bipolar disorder they just blank a lot of times. Or they get into a personality rather than action-based downward spiral, which is another story. Let's talk about the actual cost of ADHD. ADHDers experience higher levels of stress than neurotypicals. You all knew that NT meant neurotypicals. I didn't have to describe it here. They experience more dysfunctional ways of dealing with emotions. Like, oh God, I don't remember which episode it was. I was talking about meltdowns versus control tantrums. Yeah, that's not dealing with your feels very good. We do it a lot. Blood pressure, heart rate, and other cardiac problems from, all the stress. Tendency towards substance abuse and use, usually to deal with the stress. Difficulty finding and keeping employment, having a much, much harder time maintaining happy, healthy relationships. I think it was from our 7th anniversary episode. I shared that Craig almost dumped my ass because, I was reluctant to medicate my ADHD, and it was that bad. ADHD symptoms are 3 times higher in prison populations than in the general public. And we are less likely to be taken seriously for this disorder than almost any other neurological condition. Did you just say neurological? Are you going to use the right button this time? Yes, I did. Both say neurological and use the right button. Having these at 9 o'clock at night might not always be the best idea, but I am drinking coffee, so I'm fine. With a face like this, it's impossible to be taken seriously. Yeah, it's your brain meat, Billy. I uncovered a shit ton of amazing research. There were a bunch of EEG studies that showed significant differences between ADHDers and neurotypicals. And there are measurable, noticeable differences between ADHDers versus NTs, regardless of medication. Some of the other things that I found were that the correlations between ADHD and Adhd brains were very close, but there was like measurable differences between people who were ADD, basically inattentive type versus hyperactive type versus combo type, which most people are. Most people sort of fall into that middle range. I think it's 63%. And then ADHD combo type with autism. They're like, you can measure it. It's like it's all in the same little area, and you can look at the brain and go, well, yes, that's what's going on right there. I think that was a Swedish study, though, so I don't know if anybody in the U.S. is gonna, I don't know. How much do we get charged for brain scans? Was it too much? Pretty much always. But the most important thing that you need to come away from in understanding this fact is that it's your brain meat, but you have to get some kind of help. Not yoga, not apple cider vinegar. I mean, come on, guys. And yes, somebody has actually suggested that. Oh my God, what the shit, you people. But having ADHD is not a moral failing. Yes, I mentioned the exact same thing during the depression stream. It's your brain. It's your brain on the wrong drugs. And by drugs, I mean like the chemicals that you're using yourself. Right? No, and somebody did actually say, like, oh, well, if you just do apple cider vinegar. I'm like, what is a douche? Will that get rid of you? Yeah. Oh, you should do yoga every day. Dude, I don't even eat every day. ADHD. No, that's not true. I definitely eat every day. Eventually, at some point. I used to have a running joke. That I got more done before breakfast than most people get done all day. The punchline is that normally I don't eat my first meal until like 3. I mean, So if it's not yoga and it's not apple cider vinegar, what kind of help is it? So again, here's the weird part. So ADHDers who just take the medication still have about 40% of the problems that they had unmedicated, and not the ones that they want to get rid of, which is terrible. And those who just go to therapies, regardless of what they are, still have around 60 to 80% of the problems. Now, I'm going to be totally fair. Those numbers are based on a very rough calculation that I made based on a bunch of different studies that were all like, oh, well, this drug does this and that, and here's the control for that, and here's the control for this, and here's these people that are medicated and doing this. It was very, very hard to gauge. But based on sort of a rough overview, and I can crunch the numbers later, but I don't get paid for this job. I mean, maybe one day, but right now is not the time. That's my rough estimation. But the ones that just went through therapies and didn't get medicated, oh, honey. Yeah. ADHD without meds is like meditate. What? Like, what? Oh, my dude. I love these memes. So let's talk about drugs. All right. So the main neurotransmitter that your brain, that is a factor in ADHD, is dopamine. It keeps your brain, it makes your brain do the thing, or keeps your brain from doing the thing, because it's like the impulse thing. If it's off, neurons are not activating, or the dopamine isn't available, you're, fucked. So stimulants are normally the go-to. Coffee, energy drinks, 5-hour energy, other means of caffeine. That is the first time we start self-medicating. Like, seriously, I started drinking coffee when I was 7. Or was I 6? I think it was 7. Yeah, because it was before Diana was born. Yeah, I was 7. Which meant that I was great up until just after lunchtime. And then I was fucked. I mean in school. So most doctors are going to start off prescribing Adderall or methylphenidate. Oh my God, I spelled that right. No, positives and negatives. I mean, they're okay. So here's the fun part about Adderall. If you're actually ADHD and dopamine is your problem, and some dumb motherfucker decides that you just want it as a party drug and gives you 20 milligrams for your first dose, you're a zombie. That was me. I was the zombie. I didn't move for 8 hours. I have no idea what the fuck I did. I just sat there, and then at the end of the day, I still don't know what the fuck I did, but at least I know I moved. It was not fun. So that's when I got a real doctor. A real doctor. And he's like, yeah, no, that was stupid. No, that's not supposed to happen. But at least we know they're going to work for you. Because if I wasn't ADHD, I probably would have cleaned my house with a toothbrush. So I went down to 5 milligrams, and that was great for a while. And then I had to move up to 10, and then 10 twice a day. And then I'm just like, you know what? The headaches aren't worth it. Remember I was mentioning cardiac issues and blood pressure and stuff like that. So you actually, in both cases of amphetamines and methylphenidate, you can build up a resistance quite quickly or over time. It just depends. But when that resistance happens, you go from everything's fine to, I'm sorry, what was that you just said? Like now. But there's more. So there's 2 options basically that'll go to if stimulants aren't working anymore, or if they have really bad side effects. NRIs, norepinephrine, reuptake inhibitors, which is atomoxetine or Strattera, or neuroepinephrine dopamine reuptake inhibitors, bupropion or Wellbutrin. But isn't Wellbutrin an antidepressant? Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. So think about what these do. All right, and we're going to, let me see if this is on the next thing. I know, I'll talk about that in a second. Remember that we're talking about adjusting brain chemicals. And so what are I love my brain, my mouth not so much. So what a reuptake inhibitor does is when your brain uses dopamine, neuroepinephrine, melatonin, serotonin, any of the ninins that it wants to use to make things happen, to make emotions, or to make thoughts, or to, right, although I will get to that in just a second. So, your neurons, your receivers, they need this to sort of, gave that to you for bipolar, so I'm going to get to that in just a second as well. That's Wellbutrin. A reuptake inhibitor, whenever your neurons or your receivers are done with a chemical, it's released, and it normally gets flushed out and gets metabolized into your system. And as we had discussed, I can't remember which day we were discussing it, you can actually, or maybe I was discussing it with somebody else, shit, I don't know. You can actually, there are tests that they can do to see how much of your serotonin or your dopamine or whatever is being metabolized. HVA is the one for dopamine specifically. But that requires a spinal tap, so we're not going to be doing that one. That sucks. Spinal taps are like the worst. The worst. Just so awful. So pretty much we just get to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. So a reuptake inhibitor says, no, don't metabolize this just yet. Let's put that back in the mix. And so it uses the same neuroepinephrine or dopamine or serotonin or whatever, so that your transmitters, neurons and receivers can use them again and again. Taking melatonin at night for to help you sleep, does not do that. Melatonin that you take at night to help you sleep actually adds more melatonin to your system, assuming you take enough to get past the blood-brain barrier. And especially for ADHDers, that can kind of fuck your shit up. That's why we have nightmares on them. It bad. It gives us severe anxiety that can last throughout the day, as our buddy Fuzzy found out just recently. So let's talk about NRIs for a minute for Strattera. So I was very disturbed to find out all this. So Strattera is a neuroepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, so it doesn't touch any of your other chemicals. But you cannot have it if you have postural tachycardia syndrome, POTS, which is one of the weirder chronic fatigue. Yes. Yeah, melatonin and ADHD are not friends. We actually have plenty of melatonin. It's that we have an overabundance or a poor use of our dopamine that keeps us from going to sleep. It means we have to come up with better ways to knock our asses out. So POTS is actually a chronic fatigue, chronic pain syndrome that is very, very hard to diagnose, but you definitely do not want to take Strattera if you have this. Unfortunately, it also does come with a lot of ADHD symptoms, not necessarily the same underlying factors. anyone who suffers from anxiety. Because norepinephrine is the, what was that? Neurotransmitter. What was that? No. Did you hear that? What about that? What about that? Did you, what was that? That's your norepinephrine. Freaking your shit out. Oh, okay. Tics and Tourette syndrome. Anyone who has been on MAOIs, Marplan, Nardil, MAOI antibiotics like Zyvov, it will fuck your shit up. Of course, that's true for most things. I mean, don't get me wrong. You don't want to mix most things with MAOIs, but it apparently is particularly nasty with Strattera. Also, people who had severe cardiac issues and liver issues. Like it had like severe liver toxicity going on with it as well. As I linked to the letter that was sent from the FDA to the pharmaceutical company. Like, well, that's good to know. NDRIs, Wellbutrin and Zyban. Zyban's fairly new on the market. It's a variation of Wellbutrin, which is supposed to be a little easier on the heart. I've not finished my research on it because I had to actually go put on mascara. But the main thing is, do not take NDRIs if you have issues with seizures at all. Or if you're already in severe liver failure, because it's a little harder on the liver than aspirin. But I mean, we should really say already in severe liver failure for, I don't know, everything. Yeah, but Wellbutrin can cause blood pressure issues. It can cause, like for me, it caused this weird little thing that like triggered the, oh my God. I don't know if you guys remember me talking about my holy fuck headaches. I only get them once a month now, but holy fuck. So trigeminal neuralgia is like this nerve up here, and it's hurts everywhere. Like an evil electrified squid is fucking my face aggressively in the wrong way, in the bad way, and it doesn't go away. Like Tylenol doesn't touch it. I'm on anticonvulsants for it. So what the shit, guys? My question is, can I take my Wellbutrin now if I'm on the anticonvulsants? I don't know. So the thing about the blood pressure, and I've heard a couple. I actually talked to my guy about it. Because I was on Wellbutrin for a while before it started triggering holy fuck headaches, there is an option occasionally to take a blood pressure medication or to take aspirin every day with it. And if you need the effects of the Wellbutrin, and Wellbutrin works for you, especially to handle a lot of the more serious depressive and ADHD symptoms, get around it. I mean, I know it always feels terrible to have to take something to manage a side effect, and because then it becomes this, rolling bullshit. But sometimes it's worth it, I mean, sometimes it's just worth it. Especially if the consequence of the adjunct isn't as bad as going without, and you still get your benefits. In the end, it's really just about what your brain needs, okay? Because remember, this is all neurological. This is all brain meat stuff. This is all chemical stuff. This isn't you being a jerk or being lazy or being any of those things. It's about your brain. So if you only need norepinephrine, then messing with your dopamine is stupid. Kind of like antidepressants. So SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, are the go-to. Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac. But if your depression stems from something else, SSRIs are not only not going to work, they could cause problems. Like when I took Zoloft and was literally suicidal in under a week. Like went from, I'm a little concerned, I'm getting a little down, and I'm having a hard time breaking out of negative thoughts, and I got some anxiety going on too. Wow, I have fucked up everyone and everything that I've ever known or touched, and truly, this entire family would be so much better if I was just dead. Hi, I think we have a problem here. But you do need medication and therapy, behavioral therapy. Not just tell me about your mother, but like actual behavioral therapy. Like you have to learn how to manage this, okay? Like not even fucking around about this a little. Like not even a little bit. So CBT used to be the gold standard. Carly, you and I are going to get giggles out of that. It stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, and it basically just means being mindful of your thoughts, behaviors, and the consequences of your actions. It uses reframing negative thoughts into constructive ones, facing your fears, journaling, scheduling, role-playing, you know, other stuff like that. So, like, take your drugs and meditate. Okay. I'm a Buddhist, you know, and I teach and practice Reiki with the 5 principles, and you know, I'm very, very big on the whole mindfulness, be in the now, today's just today, all that other stuff. See? Yeah. But utterly fucking useless if you can't get your brain squirrels moving in the right direction. I'm just saying. And then there's DBT, which is like the same thing, but just funnier. But it involves looking more at your inner dialogue. It's dialectical behavior therapy. So it's like, it's not just like, hey, I'm having a thought. It's like, and not just what is your bad voice saying. It's how should you respond to your bad voice. It's like the next step past CBT, and it focuses on distress tolerance and emotional regulation, and I'll be honest, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, if you feel like, and I'll go into like where everything is at certain points, and why you might choose one over the other or whatever. But I mean, basically, it's just cranked up CBT with more dialogue, with more consciously choosing how you respond in whatever ways. And instead of like, and then this is really, really important, and I teach this a lot when I'm talking and working with people myself, is don't argue. If bad voice is telling you, and I just use bad voice because that's what I called mine, but yours could have whatever name it'll have. But like when bad voice is like, man, why are you even trying to write this shit? Nobody gives a shit what the fuck you have to say. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I like writing it, and if somebody needs to read it, they're going to find it. So, that's cool. Man, you are the worst artist ever. Not true. I actually am better than I used to be. Now, are there people better than me? Oh, God, yes. And most people probably wouldn't dare sully Herbert with shy hair lewd. I felt guilty about that. I really, really did. Didn't feel guilty about the slippery fan art, though. We watch a lot of Blue's Clues around here. But, just like, how do you deal with somebody who's telling you, who's trying to give you constructive criticism, even if they're not polite about it? That's a dialectical behavior therapy in a nutshell. But then there's MBT. Metacognitive behavior therapy is actually asking somebody to think about how they think. And that's a little advanced for some people. And it sounds abstract, but it's actually moving in a better direction with concrete images and steps that are more tangible. And I wish I'd had an opportunity and time and stuff like that to show my. No, I sent them home with them. But I've used this actually a lot. I didn't know that there was a word for it or whatever, but this shit works, whatever. So like both dialectical and metacognitive. So a lot of times when I'm working with somebody who has like eating disorder, here's a great one. So with an eating disorder, there's a lot of different parts to that type of problem. There's the urges, there's the the sense of control, the usually a core memory where everything where everything starts, and you go back to that and you tap and you pull the plug on it. I think Panda can attest that tapping is so awesome. But then you still have to deal with the rest of it. Even if we get rid of the attachment to a specific moment, you still have to learn how to human after that, right? So in one particular case, I had a client characterize the voice in their head that was, thank you, Panda, the voice in their head that was speaking, that was nagging, that was, well, if you lost 5 more pounds, or, oh my God, you're such a pig, or all of that. I had them characterize it as gay cholo. And if you've never seen gay cholo, after we're done here, write it down. Go over to the tubes of you and look it up. Fucking hilarious. And I promise you, there is no way you can take anything that gay cholo says seriously. It's just not going to happen. You just can't. Oh, that was stupid. Fuck. And that's dialectical, in part, dialectical behavior therapy. But when we talk about metacognitive therapy, it's when we pull in a lot of actually the Buddhist and Reiki, I won't say features, but practices that we kind of pull in at some point. And like we say, Panda, I think it's just because she knows you're here. Oh. Hey, look, Ghost Kitty. Look at that. Our filter is looking straight through you. This is Her Royal Majesty Queen Mabulus, the Raven Floofiness. But when we talk about metacognitive therapy, we're saying, I am the chooser. I am the I. My mind and my emotions are separate. They are not me. They are they're tools that I choose to use. They are parts of the committee, but they don't get to make decisions. I get to make the decision. When we talk about things like, cats always win the internet. Mm-hmm. When we talk about things like ADHD, we have to consciously characterize every single part of it. Oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. You gotta stop, baby. I love you. Oh my God, I clearly never feed her either. Oh. She a hefty kitty. we characterize each part separately so that we understand and we can kind of over time analyze what's going on. So there's the I, there's the me, there's the chooser, okay, and that's the upper eye, the outer eye. Then you have your brain goblins, and your brain goblins are a bunch of little assholes running around trying to make shit just problems, you know. We've all played D&D at some point, or we know goblins. Goblins are mischievous and they are destructive, and but they can also be really, really constructive. They build amazing shit. When they all get going in the same direction and they all have a purpose, they work with each other in amazing ways. So, yeah, brain goblins are good to have, but it's important to keep them occupied. If you don't keep them occupied, they turn into shit goblins. And those are the ones that like to just tear your shit up, where you're not, where you're just like, what the here are all these little projects that you didn't just leave behind, but that you managed to fuck up because you were right in the middle of it and you went, what? And I set it on fire. Oh, God. See? But then there's the black dog. And these are, characterize your parts however you need to characterize them. These are the ones that I just use as my shorthand. It's like a lot of people use spoons to describe the amount of energy they have over the course of a day. I use spell slots. So I have so many first level spell slots, second level spell slots, third level spell. Sometimes I don't have any fourth level spells, man. You're just shit out of luck. There are no fourth level spells today. Come back later. So, when you characterize things in a concrete way, and especially with ADHD, the more we can visualize something deliberately. Here, black dog is my depression. Or black dog is my no face. I think everybody here has seen Spirited Away, except Panda. Panda hasn't seen Spirited Away. I'm looking straight at you. Have you seen it yet? You were supposed to go see it. In Spirited Away, there's No Face. No Face is a spirit who is, unassuming, has desires, has wants, but if he is fed too much, if he's allowed to feed too much, then he becomes more and more aggressive, becomes more demanding, becomes more shitty, and hurts people and damages things and puts people in danger. And then when he is made to regurgitate whatever crap he ingested and goes back to being this small, unassuming thing, he has his desires, he has his skills, he has his capacities, but they are manageable. Write it down. It becomes manageable. When I'm not giving away spoilers, I hope, but when No Face goes to Auntie's house and he's been forced to return to himself, he spins thread and yarn brilliantly. And that's kind of the weird thing about ADHD that I'll get to a little bit more in a minute, and depression, actually, and anxiety, and a lot of the things that we are taught to view as disorders, as things that are wrong with us, is that they are only disorders if they are not controllable. All right. But getting back to the types of therapies and by the way, I'm not going to talk about biofeedback and neurobiofeedback because no, it's bullshit. Before I move on, neurobiofeedback is that thing where they were like putting these little EEG helmets on ADHD kids and like trying to get them to play video games with their brains, and that was supposed to teach them how to manage their ADHD. And literally none of the studies that I read were well designed or well executed, and there was not a consistent consensus across them except from a bunch of people who, sold neurobiofeedback equipment. So if I actually find a system or a study that was well designed and supports it, I'll look into it more. But also, how fucking privileged do we have to fucking be to be able to handle our own fucking brains, right? Which is a whole other part I'll get into in a minute. So fuck, which stand-in therapy do you pick? Oh wait, we're not done. So, adjunct behavior tricks. Now I'm going to offer this later, maybe as a poster. I don't know. These are ADHD tricks that we use around here, and we like some of them I've already embroidered. True story. Live by the calendar, die by the calendar, and I mean like a big written calendar. Almost 201. Anything shiny or electronic stands a very, very high probability of distracting us. So if we have to log into our phone to find out what we're doing today, hi Facebook, hi Twitter. Oh, what's on the news? Oh, Facebook. I should really check the weather. Twitter. What about the news? Oh, Twitter. No, weather. Facebook. Twitter, weather. And at some point you just forget that you were trying to look at what was on your calendar. So no joke. In fact, let me pull mine out here real quick. Hey, baby, can you hand me that thing? What did I do with it? I need my calendar. Oh, I love you. This is my calendar. This is my calendar. It's enormous. It's actually a 1.5 year long calendar. And sometimes I write it sometimes I write in it in pen. Yeah. And I have to go in and write Love Bites Hard at 9 p.m. on every Tuesday, or I'd forget. Even though we have a date every week. I have a Gems of War Guild, and I have to write that I have to do the update and report on it every Monday, or I'll forget. And it's my guild that I've had for over 2 years. Which brings us to the next point. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Like, no joke. That was the thing I embroidered. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Write it down in your calendar. Write it down on a list. Write it down on a Post-it note. Write it the fuck down. Now here's the thing. Writing it down is not just about having a note. The thing about ADHD is that it is associative. Associative memories. If something happens as a standalone, good fucking luck. You have to have associations that go with it. I'll talk more about associations in just a minute. But if you write something, and I don't mean type it into your goddamn phone. Hi, Twitter. I mean, oh, did you find it? Mm-hmm. Is it over there? No, I think I put it. I put it somewhere. Is it over next to where I sit? Might be. It's pretty cool. He's trying to find it for me. No, write it with your hand. Make your hand make shapes that stand for sounds that are put together into words. Write it down. Ow. I do so many cool things that I lose track of them very easily. It's no big deal. I'll just post a picture of it later.
Yeah, it's not written down, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I didn't write down where I put it. Like it could literally be anywhere. That's terrifying. But you know, I didn't write down where it was. All right. Alarms, backup alarms, and oh shit alarms. So we do a lot of alarms here, and every alarm has to have a label, and labels are super important, as we'll discuss in just a minute. But you want to have a, hey, things are about to get done, things are about to start happening, things are seriously about to start happening, hey, things are supposed to be happening right now, and did you do the thing? So one of the crossover features between autism and ADHD is what's called transition anxiety. Okay, transition anxiety is where you have to give yourself time to ease into the idea of changing activities. Okay, so like in kids that freak out or don't want to put their shoes on or don't want to get ready for school or don't want to, hey, it's time to get off, time to get started on school or time to get started on dinner or time to whatever, and they freak the fuck out. Easy. About 15 minutes before, I say, hey guys, in 15 minutes, we're going to start doing this other thing. Hey guys, in 10 minutes, we're going to do the thing. Hey guys, 5 minutes, just let you know, 5 minutes, we're going to do the thing. Okay guys, 2 minutes, we're going to do the thing. Okay guys, at 2 minutes, you got to start putting up your stuff because we're doing the thing. Okay, we're doing the thing, and then everybody's already ready to go. Transition anxiety is very real. It's so real and blows goats for quarters. It sucks. So don't do it. Use your alarms, and like Rue, we put him on a 50-10 schedule. So for 50 minutes of every hour, he's doing his stuff, he's working on his animations, or he's doing his schoolwork or whatever. And at hour 50, he has an alarm that goes because he has to get his ass up and move around and do things, and you know, so he doesn't hyperfocus, so he doesn't screw up his creative process. By the way, hyperfocusing is not actually a way for you to get more done. Hyperfocusing is just a way for you to rabbit hole harder. But I'll get into that a little bit later. And then 10 minutes later, he has another things that go as in like, and sit your butt back down. And they have to be two different alarms, so his brain is trained to go, oh, I have to get up. And for other things like, oh, you know, I'm supposed to have this meeting, or I'm supposed to, you know, they all have different associative alarms. It took me a while to figure out how much work I wasn't getting done. You know what did it for me is, for a while, I had this idea, I had this thought in my head that I couldn't finish a full novel because I had to take care of shit every fucking day. Every goddamn day. I had to take care of shit. And it drove me goddamn crazy because I never had enough time to sit down and do anything. Well, mumble years ago, I wrote this short story, Middle of Nowhere. And Panda knows this story. I wrote Middle of Nowhere, and it was just a short story. And I gave it to a friend of mine who actually didn't really like science fiction. And she was like, "Oh my God, I need the rest of it." I'm like, no, it's a first draft. And she said, "Give me the next one." I'm like, I'm just going to go write another chapter built on this. Like, yeah, I'm working on it. Oh my God. I may be talking myself into NaNoWriMoing, so fuck my life. Anyway. So I sat down and I wrote the next chapter. I outlined for the next chapter, wrote the next chapter. Each one was about 67 to 7,500 words. And I did that like every night for 3 weeks. And I only had about 2 to 3 hours to sit down and crank out the story. As soon as I was done with the story, I guess maybe it was 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. Because it was at night after, everybody's, all right, you guys have dinner. I gobbled mine down. I'm going to go. You guys watch your movies, do your shit. Okay, fine. And so I'd go on, I'd write my chapter and then make notes about what was happening the next day. And I didn't have a plan. I didn't have an outline. I didn't have a structure. It was just bum, 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 because I hadn't started off doing it that way. It was a one-off short story. What the hell? 115,000 words in 3 weeks. Because I was limited in the amount of time that I could focus on it. I was limited in the amount of time I could write. Yeah. Now, I've edited back and forth several different ways, and I am working on another edit right now so that it actually canonically works with the rest of the series, but that's another story. Line of sight. ADHDers have abnormal, as in reduced, object permanence. So you know how babies go through that period where it's like, peekaboo, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're back!" And you guys, they're like, "Oh my God, where the hell did she go?" And you go, "Oh my God, she's back!" Yeah, we never grew out of that all the way. And it's not like we don't know the object exists. But literally, if we can't see it, it might as well not exist. Which is why I don't know where my embroidery went. And I'm just looking around here thinking that I'm just going to see it because object permanence, whatever. Yeah, no, if it's not right, exactly. Glass drawers are only partially helpful, I have come to find out. Anything that goes in a drawer, oh yeah, we might have. Yeah, I just heard the haunting cries of the cauliflower I was gonna rice several 6 or 8 weeks ago. Yes, the bottom drawer where vegetables magically turn from good intentions into still good intentions. But anything that you can see through, ideal. Open cabinets, open shelves, things like that, right? Anything like that is going to help. because we honestly do not have, or we have a very weird sense of object permanence. And it has a lot to do with the fact that a big part of the way ADHD works is taking in visual stimulation. And the way I described it to Craig at one point before, this was really more in describing what our son was going through, because he's, first of all, a kid, and second of all, he just is a lot more pronounced. But it's like you have a great big image, because everywhere that you look is like one big flat image, and everything is bright, and everything is high contrast, and everything is intense, and you have no idea how to prioritize what you see. There's just no way to do it. And when you get medicated, it doesn't make it quieter. It makes it easier to force your focus on different things, to go, is that important? Is that important? Is that important? Is that important? Instead of, oh my God, everything's important. Ah! And when you get to this point where you do have that medication going for you, and you do have some of this training going for you, and you do have everything kind of open where you can see it, then you can go, I have a picture in my head of the stamps that I need to mail. Oh, there they are. Ta-da! Found them. How would you say this would be affected by living in a hoarded house? Well, I can only imagine that you're in overstimulated hell every moment of every fucking day. So, golly, I wonder why you're having issues with anxiety. Panda, honey, darling, my love, sweetheart, for reals. True story, though. That's where she lives. I mean, and that is overstimulation. No, it didn't help. That's overstimulation. That is absolute overstimulation, and that will drive you to the point of shutdown. Oh yes. Well, Carly, you remember my parents? Right. It was bad. Going into my mom's office. Stacks upon stacks of who the fuck knows. And every room was like that. It was insane. Yeah. Everything must have a place to live. So this is the follow-up, and sort of the, not corollary, but because it's just as important, but certainly the next step to ADHDers have abnormal object permanence. If everything's going to be open, everything's going to be out, everything must have a place to live. So, I love my children. Oh, I love them all so, so much. They're amazing. They're going to grow up to be impressive young men. So y'all know how. One side of the sink has the disposal, and the other side of the sink doesn't. Thank the gods, I have white tile on the countertops in my kitchen, because on the side that has the disposal, I wrote yes. And on the side that has not the disposal, where I don't want anybody putting food and bowls and literally anything, I put no, 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 no. No. Occasionally it works. I arranged everything on the counter, different counter, with red caution tape, like glow in the dark shit. and labeled where everything was supposed to be, which worked pretty okay until we had to move more things onto the counter, and it kind of fucked up the system. But transition, it's fine. But here's where everything goes. At no point is there anything on this counter that says put a bowl here. You know where that goes? Yes. Everything has to have a place to live. And when you're an at-home creative, like I'm sure none of us have ever been before, that's even more important. So, like, I knit. Let's see if I can remember everything off the top of my head. It's gonna be a minute. I knit, I crochet, I embroider, I sew, hand sew, and machine sew, all kinds of things. I mean, just like pick something, I can sew it. I do woodworking, I build furniture, I have a 3D printer, I have a Cricut maker, I do leather working, I can do soaps, I can do candles, I DM sometimes, the Dungeon Master. I'm looking at my shelves in my head. Making what the fuck was it we made? A skin tonic and aftershave and shampoos and oh god, so many things. Boxes. I make a lot of nerd supplies. I make horns. Actually, I should probably make some more since it's almost Halloween. I do a lot of shit. I paint, sculpt, watercolor, sketch, ink, cartoon, write. Yeah. I do, and if I didn't have, I say this, I'm in a place where the quarantine hit 2 weeks after we moved, and I wasn't able to get all my organization, blah, so I went on STD. Now the ED got me in a state of not doing, while the lack of organization is stressing me out. Yeah. We're going to get to that in just a second. But as far as dealing with stress is concerned, okay, everything must have a place to live. All of these things have nothing to do with being a controlling bitch. They all have to do with reducing your anxiety. So more adjunct behaviors. Make associations for everything you need to remember. Here's something really, really cool that we did with one of the boys. He was having a hard time focusing. And he was schooling here for the first 6 weeks of school. Long story. And I got him a specific flavor, like a spearmint flavor of gum. And I only let him have it when we were studying. So it reached the point where when he had a hard time focusing, he would chew that gum, which worked out really, really well. I love it. But because ADHDers have associative memory, okay, smells, tastes, textures, whatever your favorite stimulation is, like Joseph Rue with his alarms, whatever it takes. Make sure that there's more than one input to create those associations. Leave breadcrumbs to remind yourself what you are working on. I used to, this used to drive Craig crazy. I would go on like this journey throughout the house of, and you guys know the ADHD journey, okay? It's like, oh, I need to go and get this thing from the kitchen. And you go to get this thing from the kitchen that you have to prepare, but then you see that there's this hammer sitting here and you need to go put the hammer away. So you leave the mozzarella on the counter and you take the hammer, except you don't get all the way into the garage to put away the hammer, because then you see that the cat yacked on the floor. And then you go, so you put the hammer down so that you can go clean up the cat yak. But on your way to go get the Clorox wipes, you see that there was spilled Cheerios, and you have to go get the foxtail and dustpan. So you put the Clorox wipes, and so you end up with a little bread trail. Right. So leave breadcrumbs to remind yourself what you were working on, but at some point you have to go, okay, so how many matryoshkas can I go deep before I lose my fucking mind? So this little thing works both for remind yourself what you were working on and what you're going to work on. So what would have been smarter was for me to make my thing, make my salad, but leave the hammer on the corner of the counter where I would definitely know it doesn't go. Make my salad, pick up the hammer, take it to the garage. Oh, the cat yak needs to be cleaned up. Okay, I'm going to put this thing here to remind myself of that. Or I'm going to carry both things in my hand or whatever. But there are ways to use breadcrumbs in all kinds of different ways. That's the wrong button. Fuck. Label everything. My sweet friend, I got this sweet friend who didn't know that you can label the layers in Photoshop and GIMP. And when I told her that, she lit up like a fucking Christmas tree. It was brilliant. It was like her life had new meaning. And that's when I was again reminded quite aggressively, label everything. Oh, is that your recipe book? Put a fucking label on it, because you know what? It looks just like, see, they're not even fun names anymore. These stupid bots. This book looks just like the other 6 books I got on clearance. Label everything. What does this phone go to? What is this box for? Is this box for mail that I'm supposed to process, or is it the stuff that I'm supposed to chop up into little bitty pieces and send back to sender? Because yes, I will absolutely do that. Lost key beepers are things for reals. Yeah, it's that whole object permanence thing. Anytime you can use technology to your advantage, do it. Frickin' do it. Oh my God. It's so important. Again, not if I had a thought about it, I would have found the damn thing. Maybe I can. I have an amazing picture that speaks to this. Except, nope, it's not in here. It's pretty hilarious. Nope, not in here. See, frickin' labeling things. puppy pictures, more puppy pictures, awesome pictures, other pictures. I have too many pictures of gorgeous people and gorgeous puppies. Somewhere around here I have a moving box. We labeled all of our moving boxes. I'm fucking sick of moving, like you have no idea. So goddamn sick of moving. But the last time I did label one of our moving boxes dowels, trays, and quattros. How could I not? And that's what was actually in the box. But seriously, use technology to your advantage because nobody needs that much fucking stress. Like, we live in a brilliant society. Okay, we should have more capacity to overcome this pandemic because we have technology on our side. We don't have to cancel school like we did back in the days of polio because we've got technology. Fucking use it. That's, I mean, it's why we invented shit in the first place. So like the lost key beepers, not beekeepers, we know where they are. They're listed. They're in the book. Lost key beepers is a thing. And actually it's Amazon Day, so yeah, you should be able to find some for pretty cheap. Emotional lability is just part of it. Don't live in the feeling, let it roll. It is just a feel. Emotional lability is just a part of it. Do not live in your feeling. Let it roll. It's just a feel. Living in the moment. Sometimes appropriate, sometimes not. I like to say, look, man, today's just today. Tomorrow's going to be tomorrow. Today's just today, man. I tell my kids this a lot, especially when they're having hard days. Hey, man, today's just today. I'm not saying don't cry. I'm not saying shove your shit down. And I'm not saying don't feel it. That's stupid. That's how you end up with 40 fucking years of repressed emotions that you have to unpack carefully so it doesn't explode in your face like a freaking loaded cigar. It's just dumb. Fucking cry. But don't stay crying. Here's why people don't want to cry. Here's why people are afraid to feel. To be in a feel. Because they're afraid if they start to feel sad, they're not going to be able to stop feeling sad. It's okay, sweetheart. Hey, I knew you growing up. I know what's going on. It's okay. Believe it or not, if you let yourself cry for a minute, you'll eventually stop. If you let yourself feel something for a moment and just let yourself feel. Let yourself feel it. Let those thoughts go, but don't own them. Don't live there. They pass. It's only when you resist your feelings and you lock them away and you believe that they're too big to be a thing that you end up being victimized by them, that they demand attention at some point or another, and that's when the shit hits the fan, baby. The Litany to Fear. Let's see. You know what? I meant to pull this up before. me see if it's right here. It should be. Litany Against Fear. Sorry. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. It is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing, only I will remain. Exactly. So the reason that we did all that tapping stuff with the EFT when you were having those feels is that you were stuck there. You were stuck in the feels. You were so used to stopping yourself at exactly that moment, Panda, that you couldn't get past it. And if you can't get past it, you can't process past it. The Litany Against Fear doesn't say, don't feel the fear. It just says, let it pass through you. Let it, if you live in the fear, I must not fear, just like we say I must not anger. Just for today, anger not. Just for today, worry not. Living in the fear, living in the anger, living in the worry, instead of letting it pass through you, getting its lesson, hearing and feeling its wisdom. You can't do that if you live there, because these are all active experiences. These are all verbs. That's like the best way to experience it or to understand it. Fear, anger, worry, these are verbs. But when you try to make them nouns, you're kind of fucking yourself the bad way. So remember that your feelings are verbs. They're not nouns. Shit, I need to write this down. That's some good shit. I'll go back and read it later. And by read it, I mean listen to it, because here we are. But that's ADHD in particular, autism especially, when we get stuck in the emotional lability, the intensity, the changing from one emotional state to another super, super quickly, is like running away from a T-Rex. We're the T-Rex, the running is the feeling. So the first thing we focus on, and we have to have and try to eat, is the emotion. So that's the most important thing in the whole wide world. And it's really easy for us to get caught up in the idea that this is the most important thing in the whole wide world because it's what we notice. Because it's a thing that changed. It moved. No. It's just a feel. It's just a feel. What is it trying to tell us? Panda, I don't remember if you were actually in the Reiki class or not, but anger is a signpost. Anger is a fear emotion. Anger points us to something that we need to address, usually outside of ourselves. Worry is also a fear emotion. It is also a signpost. What do we need to address within ourselves? Just for today, I will anger not. Just for today, I will worry not. Once we have those managed, just for today, I will be grateful. Now that's out of the way, I can also see what verbs are useful. And I'm going to be grateful also for my anger and for my worry and for my happiness and for my joy, etc., etc., etc. Even more adjuncts. It's never too late, kiddo. I mean, really, like, today is just today, and that was just whenever it was. It's just there. So if you're stuck in executive dysfunction, all right, you're twittering even though you need to be, and you're trying to focus on doing the dishes, do something adjacent to it. All right, I can't make something to eat, get a glass of water. All right, here's the big deal about ADHD. Oh my God, this is gonna suck in the worst. Sometimes it's the food. And sometimes it's the food you like the most. So, y'all know I had to go gluten-free. I've been gluten-free for 10 years, something like that. Because it's the wheat. The wheat was doing, I was like so freaking flipped out, crushing social anxiety. And remember that when I get anxious, I don't just like sit in a corner and rock. I like punch things. So I'm like, let's not be anxious around people, because hitting people is bad, right? I mean, sometimes. This is not tea. So it turns out it's American wheat that gives me crushing social anxiety. Italian wheat's fine. European wheat's fine. We've run experiments on this a few different times, but it was the wheat. And for a lot of us, it actually is the wheat, because our theory is that it's glyphosate. It's the Roundup that they put on the on crops, which is illegal in Europe. I'm just saying. It's not like they know anything we don't or something. I mean, we do know. Americans just don't give a fuck. Sometimes it's not as often, but I have known quite a few people with ADHD whose symptoms are made worse by milk or by peanut butter. Like, they don't have an allergic reaction to peanut butter, but there's certain types of peanut butter they just can't have. I've seen some people develop problems around soy or around any types of things. And there are ways to test for this. There are ways to figure it out without having to go through weeks and weeks of well, and then what? And well, you know, I stopped eating wheat, but now I'm still pissed off at everything. Yeah, you know. Now, there are faster ways to figure it out. But be aware that diet is sometimes the factor you gotta take into consideration. Again, I'm not saying this is in any way, shape, or form substituting medication or therapy. It's just stuff that helps. Support systems are not just for other people. You need them. You need people who are going to call your ass out. You need people who are going to cheer you on. You need people who are going to let you fail. You need people who are going to let you win. You need people who are going to acknowledge your problems but not make excuses for it. Support systems are people who say, all right, honey, you're having a bad brain day. You need to just go take a lay down. Okay? Nope. Step away. You're going to fuck shit up. Love you. Don't make a mess. Or, no, I think you're kind of overdoing it. I think you're being dramatic, which is a thing. Absolutely. I need you to breathe through it and let's get this shit done. All right? We don't have time for this. Come on. We got to do this. You are not going to be perfect every day. This is so goddamn important. Oh my God, it's so goddamn important. You are not going to be perfect every day. Even if you take your medication every day, even if you do all of your therapy like you're supposed to, you are not going to be perfect every day. Sometimes you are going to lose your shit, literally and figuratively. And that is okay. It really, really is. Nobody's on 100% of that like whole neurotypical thing where they say they are. It's bullshit. But ADHD absolutely can be a superpower. We notice things nobody else notices. We see things from completely unique perspectives. Girl, I will tell you that every time you need to hear it. We get more done before breakfast than most people get done all day. And not just because breakfast is at 3 p.m. We are mad passionate about the world. And there's so much more I can't begin. I mean, it's so huge. But also, here's the thing about superpowers. They suck until you learn to use them. I mean, think about Superman, right? Dude can fly, he's got laser eyes, he's super strong. Can you imagine the first time he tried to fly? How many barns got knocked over? Or first time he figured out how to turn on the laser eyes and burnt down half the crops? Or tried to shake somebody's hand when he was mad? All that and more. Until you learn how to use superpowers, until you learn how to tame them, until you learn how to give them the space that they need, both to be amazing and to, you know what, take a fucking day off, they're gonna eat your lunch. It's like depression. Depression is the same way. Depression gives you the capacity to view the world in more realistic terms, in more realistic ways than people who do not have depression. This is clinically, there's a study, and I did not include it in today's list of citations, but I will find it and I will post it if you want it. Even things like going through traumas and going through stressors and going through the worst fucking shit. I say this a lot, I will say this again. I will never fucking tell you that everything happens for a reason, unless you're going through stupid things because you're making dumb fucking decisions. Sometimes things happen because you're stupid and make bad decisions. But everything happens. That's it. That's the period. That's the bottom line. Everything happens. Right? Yes. We have a very strong saying, please do not diagnose yourself with clinical depression if the problem is in fact that you are merely surrounded by assholes. Oh my God, girl, you threw me off my groove. Shit, fire, and save matches. Oh, everything happens, period. That does not mean that we cannot gain value from what happens to us. All right? I've been through some of the worst shit anybody should ever fucking go through. Really bad shit. It just happened. Now, did I choose to be a stronger person for it? Did I choose to make something positive come of it? Well, yeah. You know, when Toby died, I was a fucking basket case for like 6 months. I couldn't fucking tell you what the hell I did. I checked the fuck out. When I got pregnant with Daniel, I did what? When I got pregnant with Daniel, I didn't just, well, you know, whatever, you know, things and stuff. No, I let my anxiety and my panic fuel my fight to save that kid's life. Now, unfortunately, we didn't know enough about it to realize that taking him early, or actually taking him late, was going to cause the epilepsy. But even that is something that is not a, well, everything happens for a reason. No, it happened because we didn't fucking know. Because the studies weren't in by then. So now we got 10, almost 11 years of epilepsy to deal with, but we're also still using him, Daniel, to learn things that we didn't know before. So this is pretty cool. Did it happen because we had to learn those things? Fuck no, it did not, because that's fucking cruel and stupid. It just happened. It just happened. But when you go through the shit and you go through the trauma and you're born with social disadvantages like autism, ADHD, major depressive disorder, seasonal affective disorder, etc., 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 you have the choice to do something with it, to be stronger, to be better. Do you have to? No, honey, you don't. If all you manage to do is just exist from day to day and do your best as well as you can, and that's all you gotta do, honey, that's fine. That's all you gotta do. You're under no obligation to be anything more than what you want to be. But if you want to beat ADHD instead of letting ADHD beat the crap out of you, well, this is the part that I promised you I would talk about, because this is the hardest thing. Adult diagnoses of ADHD. This is the part that sucks nasty green dick. Because it just sucks balls. And not like, well, most of us who were diagnosed as adults were completely fucked in school trying to get anything done while swimming through sensory processing disorders, squirrel brain, brain goblins, black dogs, not black dongs like I misspelled earlier, crushing depression, anxiety, not living up to potential, last minute panic driven projects and reports. I'm sure you guys can't totally relate to any of that. Well, you're just not living up to your potential. Well, you're just not trying hard enough. What the fuck is trying? I sat here for like 6 fucking hours trying to understand a goddamn thing out of anything that happened in this whole fucking report, and it's just like, eee. Define trying. What am that? But we are getting better. And by we, I do mean ADHDers. We're learning to take control of our behaviors, steer away from destructive choices. Because if you know you have brain goblins, you know it's safe to ignore them. You have to be the boss of you. So remember I was talking a little bit ago about metacognitive behavior therapy, and how a good way to kind of think of it is to make yourself a diagram of all the parts of you. Okay, so there's the you, there's the chooser. And if you know that you're just having a bad day, you're not going to be perfect every day. Some days, you just got bad days. You know, you got brain goblins that day. They're not letting up. You know, who the fuck knows what happened? Cool. You're going to let them go off and do their things. You're the chooser of what you get to do. Oh, fuck. You're the chooser. So if you know they're being assholes and they're making up bad stories, you go, oh, well, you know, brain goblins be braining. You know, oh, well, that's just them. We still have to grieve, though. Now, this is the hardest thing to get past. When you get an adult diagnosis, how many years did you lose to people not listening to you, not supporting you, nagging at you, screaming at you, punishing you for something that you literally had no control over? I told my mom when I was 12. I told my mom when I was 12, I really think I have ADHD. Yeah. And she looked at me and said, well, that's stupid. You're just being lazy. You can't have ADHD. You're a girl. And, yeah, I'm almost 47. And I did not get a proper diagnosis until I was 43, 42, 43, somewhere in there. Yeah. So that was 30 years of when I became aware that I might have a problem, was completely quashed because I was just looking for an excuse. I was just being lazy. I, even then, did more in the course of a day than most of the people I knew. Just as a general, just on principle, between chores and taking care of the sibs and taking care of, trying to take care of schoolwork. I mean, I couldn't do homework if I wanted to. I had so many chores to take care of when I got home. I mean, what the hell? Yeah, right? But I'm just not trying hard enough. I'm not living up to my potential. And I got grounded a lot. Not that it fucking mattered, but, and punished a lot. Not a lot of rewards, not a lot of support or positive feedback or anything. I just got a lot of yeah, it's pretty bad. And I mean, not like my parents were like the most supportive ever, for reals. I mean, I could go into long stories about that, but this is not my therapy hour. Oh yeah, no, and there was no way that I could have gotten A's. Physical punishment for not getting A's. Yeah, I think that was discussed at one point, and I'm like, just hit me now. Because I'm not getting A's. Are you fucking kidding me? There's no way. I'm like, I can't. And my mom would pull out like her father's report cards where he got straight A's all the way through everything except in fucking handwriting. I'm like, fucking knock his, sure, rock on, man. It's also a white male, privileged in society, and, what the shit, like, whatever. And did not have how many bloody fucking siblings to take care of. Oldest of 5 was me. And parents who are also definitely autistic, if not also ADHD. And still to this day in denial, as far as I know. No skin off my ass. It's their issue now. But that's where I was raised. So I was 12 when I recognized I should be able to do this and I can't. Like, physically unable to. Whatever, I cannot. I can't do it. And when I realized I wasn't going to get any help and I wasn't going to get any support, I lost all motivation to even fucking try anymore. Because why the fuck bother? I'm going to fail. I'm going to get whooped for failing. So just get the whoopings out of the way. Who gives a shit? And whatever. But obviously also not taught how to manage emotions at all. I should just know how to keep my shit straight. I should just know that. Like, people just fucking know that? Like, that's a thing? I strongly suspect that my parents also did not just know that and just figured that I wouldn't magically know that because they thought everybody else just knew that. Apparently, not everybody else knew that. Like, anyone. So we just were made to feel guilty for not living up to the expectation that nobody else knew how to do either. Although I think a lot of it was that you get a lot of that that training sort of indirectly, and we just didn't. Like, we missed those social cues, you know, that wasn't really a thing. So, I mean, and I can go on. You know, the hardest part for me was, oh my God, how fucking much of my life did I lose? Because they wouldn't listen to something that at the time could have been treated simply and easily like that. How much of my life did I lose to failed career attempts, to failed schooling attempts, to utterly horrific relationships, to seeing the world as some horrible goddamn place, to seeing myself as someone who is never going to be able to succeed. And it wasn't just the fact that I have boobs, though God knows that didn't help, but how much of my life did I lose because they just didn't know that ADHD was a thing? I mean, it's not like the research supported in, let me see, that would have been 1985, 1986. It's not like the research at that point supported the idea that girls even got it to anywhere near. And I didn't have the same hyperactivity like I did in elementary school. My butt didn't know what chairs felt like. It wasn't a thing. I was standing up, I was moving around, but it was just because I was short and I couldn't reach everything. All right, cool. It wasn't malicious. But that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. It wasn't malicious, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt, and that doesn't mean it didn't cause real goddamn damage. So this is where we have to address our feels in a different way. And when I say we have to grieve the life that we lost being diagnosed as adults, I am not kidding. I am actually talking about real and honest to goodness grieving. And grieving goes through stages. Do not expect apologies, even if your parents or support systems or whatever could know what the hell they were doing. It just doesn't help. That's not what makes it better. We have to go through a real grieving process and work through it. Shock and denial. And part of that is, you know, they didn't know, I didn't know, how come they didn't know? Oh my God, how could somebody have missed this? Anger. How many goddamn years? I was supposed to go to MIT. No, really, I was supposed to go to MIT. Sadness. Fucking seriously. How many pains did I experience? How many hurts happened? What would have happened if? How could this have been different? What if I had asked better? What if I had asked harder? What if I had been more whatever, compelling? And acceptance. Acceptance is always weird. We all have issues with acceptance. Acceptance is not approval. Now, I go over this again and again and again in the forgiveness class, which goes over the same steps again and again and again. Acceptance is not approval. When we hit acceptance, we should have processed our emotions in each step. I recommend writing it down because that's the best way to do it. Write a letter. Dear me, what the serious fuck? And then just let it go from there. But make sure you hit each of the emotions. Each of those. Experience them. Not just, oh, I'm going to write about being angry. No, fucking feel the shit. Feel it. If you have a problem, you're afraid of getting stuck, call me. I'll fix it. But acceptance is, what have I learned about myself? What have I learned about my capacity and my capability? Having lived up to this point without support and without help. And this is the part where I have a little bit of an advantage here because I did get diagnosed a few years ago. But again, in my 40s, oh, fuck. Oh, I regret all my life decisions. I did squats yesterday playing with Daniel. Daniel likes to play a lot longer than my legs like to do squats. The things I do for my kids. And I had to work through these. There are days there's still a little bit of sadness and there's still a little bit of anger. But the fact is, how many things did I have to learn? How many things did I try? How many things, and whether they worked at the time or not's immaterial. How many things did I pick up along the way that made me stronger and made me who I am now? You know, one of the things that I really do like to talk about is, yeah, I was supposed to go to MIT. That shit did not happen. But if I had, some of the things that I love most in life now, I would have never have gotten. Now you could argue, but if you'd gone to MIT, then you could have met somebody else and you could have done all of this other stuff. Yeah, except that knowing what I know now, if I had gone to MIT, I would probably be in prison or dead. You know, one of the two. Because especially in the late 80s and early 90s, it was extremely misogynistic. It was not a good place to be if you had it like a vagina. It was very, very bad. It's second only to the Marines, which I also tried to get into. I was too short. I was just gonna fuck all this shit up. But when you realize this is what happened, and you reach, no, you already had your shot. Right? When you realize this is what happened, and this is where you are because of it, and you're going through your acceptance phase, truly accept everything happened. That's it. The reason was shit that's outside of our control. Chaos, if you will. Now, what are you going to do with it? That's what the acceptance phase is when we're talking about grieving an adult diagnosis in terms of what we lost. Acceptance is identifying specifically what we gained. So you grieve, and then you move on. Because, you know, we have a world to save. And it's not like we can sit around and wait for the NTs to do it. Oh. Yeah, save, you freaking weirdo. There we go. All right. So, let me prep this up for us real quick. All right. So that is the long and short. Ah, no, stop. Sorry. Put this over here for a minute. So that's the long and short of it. That is, and really it is extremely short, to be perfectly fair. I could probably talk about 80, oh, fuck, shit. Oh, my life choices. No, not really, just like 3 of them, like making salad. Ah. Anyway, I could probably talk about ADHD for a really, really long time. And I pulled down a shit ton of frickin' research, a lot of which went into creating tonight's presentation, a lot of which is corroborative more than anything else. My final list of articles that I read and went together with was 65 articles, I think, somewhere in there. 60, 65. I can't remember exactly. I know I went deep into the B alphabet. You know, you go A, B, C, D, and then you A, B, A, C, and then B, A, B, 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 C. So I know I'm deep in the B's. No. My cat is snap trained. I love her. Yeah, but there's a lot of it. And none of it was done on YouTube. I was explaining to my friend the other day that when I'm researching something, no, I use scholar.google.com. I use a few other sites. You guys probably see me post this on Facebook periodically, the places where you can go and find textbooks and science journals and things like that. I use scholar.google.com because it's fast, easy, and hits all of the big journals. A lot of times you only get abstracts, but most of the time that's all you need. If the abstract doesn't give you the objective, the method, the result, and the conclusion, then just skip past it. It's probably not useful. But a lot of times, I'd say probably half of them that I hit, I was able to print off or download a full article. Some of the articles are a couple of pages. Some of them are 10 or 12 pages. But I also got like the metacognition book, the one written, oh my gosh, God's help me. The one written by oh, God's help me. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Nope, no. Oh, shit. Well, I closed that other document. I can tell you. Anyway, there's a full book on metacognition, on where it came from, what it's used for, how it's used, you know, the principles, the foundation. I got that entire book. I just downloaded it to my Kindle. And I'm still reading it because it's interesting, and apparently I'm a masochist. So, you know, that's fine. But I mean, that's where you do the majority of this type of research. If you're looking for real answers on pretty much anything, there it is. So as we're going to see in just a moment, as we talk about my references and citations, you're going to see a bunch that may or may not, I think I only have 2 or 3 that don't have direct links on them. And I will probably post the full report once I finish writing it, and all of my citations and everything, probably on lovebiteshard.com. But I really want to make sure that it's a little bit more polished, obviously. And when I actually put all of this stuff on YouTube as well, then I think YouTube actually has a limit on the descriptions length, so I don't really want to put my full thing there. But I'll probably put on lovebiteshard.com with the Y. But it's my favorite subject. It's my favorite subject next to autism. But a lot of times it's the same fucking thing. Yeah, so the rabbit hole I was going down right before I had to start streaming, actually, was that there is such a huge overlap neurologically and physically that it's really hard to differentiate between autism and ADHD, and there is a growing body of work and a growing movement in neurology and psychiatry and psychology that's saying, they're not really different. They're just different sections of the same spectrum. And of course, when we talk about spectrum, when we talk about autism and things like that, we're not talking about a linear scale. We're talking about a whole big, possibly 3-dimensional spectrum. It's a voxel. It's not a pixel. That you're right. Oh, no, circus is absolutely appropriate. That Venn diagram is damn near a single overlapping circus because, let's face it, we all got the monkeys. But so much of what we describe in ADHD and autism and things like that, it's all part of the same thing, and it is voxelated. A voxel is a cube, so a pixel is a square, a voxel is a cube, and I would not know that except that the cubes in Minecraft are called voxels. That's where I learned it. So, yay, Minecraft! We learned so much from video games. I learned way too much from video games. But anyway, I will emotional dysregulation and oppositional. Oh yeah. Yes. Well, I don't know if CARS is really going to be, Panda, I don't know if CARS is going to be the scale that they use right now, because remember, that was from 99. That's like 20 years old. They may have updated it since then. It really just depends. But the fact is, if you walk in and say, hey, look, here's the thing. I really feel that I am ADHD because da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I feel shame and I feel all of these things, and I don't feel anhedonia. Remember, we were talking about anhedonias, where you don't feel joy from anything. You just feel sad that you can't do the things. That is a different type of depression that they've identified as being kind of unique to ADHD with major depressive disorder. It's part of that. It's the ADHD brand of depression, if you will. But remember also that your therapist may not actually be the one that needs to diagnose or discuss ADHD, baby. That's really kind of the realm of the psychiatrist, so you'd have to talk to them about getting a good referral. Unless you're the same person, in which case, how the fuck did you manage that? Because that'd be awesome. But like I said, I'm gonna have this stuff up, hopefully in the next few days. I said that because I got shit going on. I'll tell you later. Oh my fucking god. But remember that we are on Twitch TV, Love Bites Hard. You can get me over on the Twitters, Love Bites Hard with a Y.TV as well. The YouTubes, Love Bites Hard with a Y.TV. And also find us over on Discord, Love Bites Hard. Nice. Well, like I said, CBT it's the gold standard. Ask your therapist about metacognition. See if there's something that they can do as far as that's concerned, and I don't know, impress her pants off that you even know what the hell that is. No, I'm kidding. And if not, you can always bring me up, and we can design a model for you. And that's a big part of what the metacognition, I mean, it's what I've been doing for years. It's like, oh wait, there's a word for it. Is, hey, how do we describe this? This will be cool. But as always, thank you guys very, very much. I love you so much for joining. Thank you for being chatty with me. It's always better with friends. And we're here every Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Sometimes we talk about love. Sometimes we talk about brains. Sometimes we talk about brains on love. Sometimes we talk about depression. And all sorts of fun things like that. But let's see if I can get this timed correctly. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Well, I don't know if you can. Yeah, I think you can do that. I don't know how that works. But definitely follow everywhere that you can so you get all of the updates, because like I said, I don't post this shit to Facebook because Facebook just likes to fucking bury it. The bastards. All right? So, I love you. Oh my God, it's almost midnight. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. Come on, do the thing.
you.